Welcome to the first episode ever of the Smash JT Halloween Spooktacular. Doesn't even work like in the movies. Just makes me look like I have a pig nose. As you can see, guys, I went all out on my set design this time because I want this Halloween Spooktacular to be the biggest and best Spooktacular in all of YouTube. I got this little pumpkin here that lights up. It's probably too far away for you to see. I got this really cool motion activated pumpkin here. Ugh, son of a... I got this really cool motion sensor pumpkin. You just have to walk in front of it. It's like super spooky. This is the best stage design in all of YouTube. Take that, Chadtronic. In this episode, I'm going to talk about my 5 favorite creepiest enemies from NES games ever. I'm going to turn that off. It's starting to freak me out. Let's get this list started, but first, can I get some lights on in here? Ugh, jeez. Alright, first one on the list here is Fanta from Doki Doki Panic, or as the West knows him, Super Mario Bros. 2. Phantos are those living masks that followed you around when you picked up the keys in Super Mario Bros. 2, and the creepiest part about it was, you couldn't kill them. They'd go off screen and disappear when you threw the key down, and then you'd pick the key back up, and it would magically just appear back floating around you trying to kill you. This guy will stalk you throughout an entire level until you actually use the key or he kills you. There's no other way to get rid of this enemy. He seemingly has no feelings, no other motives or remorse. He just wants that key back. And once he comes to life, there is no stopping him. He can travel through walls, float over any obstacle. There is nothing that gets in the way of this guy, and he will haunt your nightmares. Next up on the list is Metroid. Not the game, the enemy. The original Metroids from the original Metroid game are some of the freakiest enemies you will ever encounter in any game you ever play. And once you get towards the end of the game where all of these Metroids are seemingly floating around just looking to suck the lifeblood out of you, this is where it gets scary. You have to start bombing the hell out of these guys and hope through some glitchy mess that Samus falls out of their grasp. And they'll come right back at you after 2 seconds. If you don't have the freeze beam, you are screwed. Because the only way to kill them is to freeze them and missile them. If you're out of missiles or don't have the freeze gun, you can't kill these guys. And they'll keep coming after you until you're dead. Not to mention, just look at these things. These tentacles hanging down from the bottom of them, just looking to catch you in their grasp and not let go until you're dead. Actually, in a way, it reminds me of an ex-girlfriend I used to have. The Claw from the original Legend of Zelda. Towards the end of the dungeon, right before the boss room typically, this thing would fall from the sky, out of nowhere seemingly, land on you, grab you, and throw you back to the beginning of the dungeon, which doesn't seem too bad. You just go back to the start of the dungeon. But towards the later levels, these dungeons were freaking hard, and you'd have to go through the whole dungeon again just to get to the end boss, assuming you don't get caught by another one of these claws. Not to mention, I would have nightmares about these things after playing the game. Next up, we got the Eggplant Wizard from Kid Icarus. And if you guys aren't familiar with the Eggplant Wizard, then you're not familiar with Kid Icarus. This guy would throw these eggplants into the air, and if he happened to hit you with one of them, it wouldn't kill you. It would just put an eggplant on your head, which is weird, but scary because you can't really see when you have an eggplant on your head. And when you can't see, you can't really fire at enemies. And in this game, you can't do anything when an eggplant goes on your head until you visit a doctor that can safely remove said eggplant. This is one of the creepiest aspects in any game I've ever played. Getting hit by an eggplant severely handicaps your ability to do anything in Kid Icarus, and it's extremely freaky trying to find a hospital when you can't fire any weapons around. And finally, my #1 creepiest enemy of all time in NES games is Nurse Edna. Yes, Nurse Edna, the Nurse Edna from Maniac Mansion. Now, all the enemies in Maniac Mansion have a certain level of creepiness to them. You would think Dr. Fred would be the creepiest enemy of the game, seeing as he's the main antagonist along with the meteor, and he kidnaps Sandy, your girlfriend. He refers to himself as a mad scientist, and he's still not the creepiest character in the game. Nurse Edna, Dr. Fred's wife, is a retired nurse. She mainly stays in her room, but is occasionally found in other parts of the house. If she catches you in the mansion, she sends you to the dungeon. Some of her dialogue even hints that she's into sadomasochism in the game. She is a creep in every sense of the word. There's something about these old NES games that just make them way creepier than what today's games do for me. I think part of it's because I'm older, but the vast majority of why I feel this way is because the games back in the day didn't have the storylines and the graphics to spoon-feed it all like today's games do to people. Back then you had to use your imagination to truly immerse yourself in the world of the video game, and because of that, a lot of it stayed with you after you turned the game off. But maybe that's just me. So there you have my top 5 creepiest enemies ever from NES games. Let me know down below if I missed any, guys, and I hope you enjoyed this first annual Halloween Spooktacular on Smash JT. I'll catch you next time. Have a good one.